Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And here I have an older article for you guys from Fierce Wireless. I will leave it in the description in case you guys haven't seen this article. So T-Mobile keeps addressing the investors in the market in a way where they're saying we are strategically buying spectrum, smartly deploying spectrum, and everything is done strategically. Well, maybe, T-Mobile hasn't been buying spectrum and deploying it as smartly as they're wanting the market to believe. And I wanted to kind of break that down in this video, and I'll compare it to their benchmark competitor, which is Verizon. So just to briefly speak on Verizon, Verizon spent one large lump sum at the C-band auction of the tune of like 50 billion. They already had, CBRS by that time, and now, right, they're deploying that. They're literally doing the one touch. They're deploying the C-band asset, the CBRS asset, and once that is deployed to large scale, whatever their internal targets are, if it's 300 million, we don't know publicly, right? But if they get there, that's it. They don't have another asset to deploy. They are done. They spent 50 billion, maybe a little more. They spent, of course, more billions of dollars on capital to deploy. But once that's deployed and it's modernized, for Verizon, that's it. That is one single deployment, right? So let's compare that to T-Mobile, the ones that are saying that they're smartly, strategically deploying and buying spectrum. T-Mobile bought 600 megahertz, which they desperately needed, so I'm not disputing that, right? They bought low band in 2017 to the tune of 8 billion, and then they had to deploy that on a nationwide scale. So again, they deployed, spent billions to touch all of their sites and modernize with the 600 panel, which probably is still not at 100% today. There's probably still some sites out there that are not modernized, that are band 12 only. That's still in the network likely today. So that was the first one, right? Then they spent $26 billion closing the Sprint merger, and then they had to deploy that 2.5 spectrum, again, touching just about the network nationwide, right? It's between 50, 60,000 sites they had to touch, which is, again, another deployment where they had to climb sites and spend billions of dollars to deploy that over the tune of like 3 years. So now, again, right, they just finished up 2.5, 300 million pops covered. They cover like 330 million pops with low band. Now we have another deployment that's coming up. We got C-band and the DoD, which is what they're calling the one and done rollout. So they're smart. That I'll give them credit. They are smartly being patient, waiting for a dual band radio. So that I'll give them credit for that. But majority of the metros, they have to go again and climb sites. Whether that happens aggressively quickly at the beginning or they take their time, regardless of how that happens in 24, 25, 26, they have to touch majority of the metros again. They have to climb sites again. They have to go on rooftops again. Even if it's just with one panel, they have to deploy it again. And that's going to be, they're going to have to carve out probably billions again from the CapEx to deploy the C-band and DoD. C-band, they have it covering about 225 million pops or 220. DoD about 175 million pops. So again, they have to touch majority of metro areas, climb sites, again, with another spectrum band. So that sounds, if you really break that down, it sounds way more inefficient versus their benchmark competitor. Verizon spent one big lump sum, and then they spent, they had to spend, of course, billions extra to deploy that aggressively and quickly. But once that's deployed, they're going to be done. They have nothing else to deploy. They didn't buy DoD. They said, we are not going to buy DoD, and I'm speculating, of course, but internally, they said, look, we're not buying DoD. It's not worth it. We're not going to buy that and then have to, spend billions again deploying that nationwide. We're not doing it. We bought enough contiguous C-band. We supplement that with CBRS, and we're fine. That's what I believe is what Verizon said internally. T-Mobile saw it differently. You know, if you total up all the spectrum that I mentioned, it equals just about to the lump sum of what Verizon spent on C-band, right? They spent $26 billion acquiring Sprint. Yes, they got some customers from that. Of course, that was important. But the most important part of where T-Mobile is today and all of the growth that they're enjoying, all of the enterprise stuff, it's coming from the 2.5. So that's 26 billion, right? They spent 9.3 billion on the C-band spectrum, plus the 8 billion that they spent on 600, plus, you know, I forgot what they spent on DoD, and then, you know, throw in auction 108. Although those panels are already deployed, but they spent, you know, some money on auction 108 as well, the additional 2.5. If you do the math on that, I mean, they're right around, you know, 40 plus billion. But they had to deploy that in separate, staggered phases of deployment. Verizon is just deploying it all at once. They said, screw it, we spend all this money at once, and then we just deploy that and we're done. T-Mobile had to deploy 600, then they had to do 2.5, and now they gotta embark on the journey of deploying the C-band and DoD. So the only thing smart about that, in my opinion, is the one and done rollout for the C-band and DoD. Right, that's where I feel AT&T kind of didn't really do that smartly. You know, they didn't wait for that panel, which I understand as well. They didn't wait for the dual band, but then they went to some sites and they didn't deploy DoD. They just deployed C-band. So that was a bit, in my opinion, that whole one climb thing that didn't really pan out. You know, I think T-Mobile will do that better. I think they will deploy that more strategically, and they will do the one panel. But if you look at everything from starting with 600, then 2.5, now C-band, DoD, it's just very inefficient. It sounds inefficient in my opinion. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe to the channel. Follow the social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Life. See y'all in the next one. Peace.